Welcome to Tales from the Trails, a podcast dedicated to uncovering the rich tapestry of human experiences. Each episode, we delve into the personal adventures of individuals from diverse backgrounds, exploring their defining moments, challenges, passions, life purposes, and reflections. I am your host, Brian Facciandini. Thank you for joining our show today. I'm delighted to welcome Karen Adjei as my guest for this episode, someone whose journey weaves together art, librarianship, faith, and a calling to serve across cultures. Karen's path has taken her from early academic work at Northwestern University, where she researched Japanese American oral histories and identity, to fellowships at the Smithsonian, to professional roles supporting libraries, archives, and theological communities. Along the way, she has become what she calls a culture care steward, passionate about building human connection, creating inclusive communities, and empowering others through stories, information, and the arts. Now, Karen is preparing for one of her most exciting chapters yet, setting sail for Nagoya, Japan, where she will join Christ Bible Institute. Her recent reflections on this move, drawing on scripture, storytelling, life experiences, and everyday encounters, highlight her heart for reconciliation, compassion, and cultivating belonging wherever she goes. Karen, we are so grateful to have you with us today. Welcome.
Thank you so much.
Oh, it's great to be here and learn more about your life. And I just want to share with our community of listeners how we met, because it's apropos. And the fact that we're here again today in person is wonderful. But to kick that off, I don't think, especially for our listeners, a lot of people know that I drive for rideshare. And I was out working one day downtown Denver, Colorado, and received a ride request, which I accepted and ran into construction traffic and wasn't moving. And I felt bad. And so I'm like, okay, let me just message this lady, Karen, who's waiting so patiently. And hey, I'm stuck in construction, don't know when I'll get through, because I think the light literally had changed like 4 or 5 times and they weren't letting people through.
Gosh.
People started honking. And so as soon as I messaged, she canceled on me. And I was like, oh my gosh. All right, cool. Well, I respect that because I gave you the option. And then sure enough, like right afterwards, she calls for another ride and Uber sent it to me. And so I took it again. And I'm like, we'll see if she cancels. And she didn't. And finally, they let the traffic through. I go and meet her outside of the Denver Art Museum, which is a fantastic museum here in Denver. If you're ever visiting, highly recommend to see. And when I picked her up, I was like, it was meant to be, I suppose.
Yeah.
And little do I know, like, what transpires. We had about a 30 to 40 minute ride. I think I made it 5 minutes longer by trying to outsmart traffic and going down wrong streets. But she was very patient as I skillfully navigated, and we had a phenomenal conversation. Much about Karen's story, but also like it just correlated so much with the podcast and our community and how we build human connection and build communities. And Karen's got a head start on that. So it's so great to have you here today to learn more insights about you, about what you're working on.
Yeah, thank you so much for just having me. And I didn't even realize that you were stuck in traffic with construction picking me up. But yeah, I'm also just so thankful for that traffic because I feel like it just allowed us to have those deep conversations. So I'm just so thankful that like I'm here and that you invited me on the show. So, yeah,
that's excellent. I agree. Deep conversations. I always, I love being into deep conversation and grateful as well that we had the opportunity. And let's dive into this. So then, if you're ready, We'll start with what first drew you to libraries in the world of knowledge keeping. Was there a moment of influence or influence that set you on this path?
Yeah, so I guess just like a little bit about my background. So I'm from the Washington, D.C. area. And I think it just has like world-class museums and libraries and archives. Like tourists kind of go to those places when they go to DC. So I kind of grew up just going to that naturally. So like my mom and my grandmother would take me to like the art museum. And yeah, that was just like a huge part of my childhood. And every time I went to the art museum, I was just always inspired by what I was seeing. And it was just kind of, yeah, a place that brought a lot of joy, a lot of connection for me and my family. And I also just remember like growing up, I was kind of like a history nerd. And so I would always be reading like history books. I think there was one book I had read like 10 times before I like started elementary school, just about like the history of like Native Americans in North Carolina. And there's just something about like the way they told the story of just the mystery of these different people coming together at this time and what transpired there. Something just like captured me. And so I think that was just kind of the seeds that were planted in my childhood that kind of grew over time. And I think in high school, I was also involved in like National History Day. So I think every state has like their National History Day program. So all these students kind of come together and just share whatever excites them about history. And you can have like so many different ways to share that. So you can create like a podcast like this. You can create a website, like whatever you want to do. Some people do acting. It's like really cool.
Nice.
And yeah, I think like just over time, I had a lot of different opportunities to kind of grow this love of history and storytelling. And just also seeing how you can bring different kinds of like information together to share like whatever you love with other people. But I don't think I fully realized that until I got to college. So I was a history major. I also had a minor in Asian American studies. And so my thesis that you kind of like mentioned a little bit at the beginning was on Japanese American history and community, specifically in Chicago. And I think through that experience and other research experiences, it just got me thinking about like what do researchers need, and so I got a lot of exposure also to how do you keep archives and papers that really influence a story that you would see at a museum, or even like storytelling with movies. Like there's just so many ways that you can share information. And then I think towards the end of college, I needed to do like one internship at least to kind of get something on my resume. So I applied to a couple of internships at various places. But what stuck was kind of the museum world. So my first internship at the museum was at the Field Museum in Chicago. So that's kind of like the science museum there. Yeah. And I think it was kind of like a dream come true because I'd grown up going to the museums, but I never got a chance to actually work with them. Yeah. And so I think just being at the museum and specifically seeing like families and children just light up when they would see like a bug or something, like just random stuff. Right. Like something about that was like, I want to be part of this person's story of joy. And I think it kind of helped me to think back to like my own like childhood with like my mom and my grandma. That's how we often found joy in our lives, was through that art. And so I just wanted that to be part of like my life. So I think, beautiful. Yeah, from there, when I graduated from college, I worked on the university libraries like for the summer. And it was just like a random job. I just needed money. And at first I really didn't like working in the library. No. Yeah, it was an interesting like vibe. So I guess like the office I was in, like there's literally no windows. Oh gosh. So it's like 8 hours a day, you're staring at a spreadsheet, just copying and pasting. Yeah. Just very tedious. Did you have plants or put up photos of
This is the beach island I want to be on, Island Beach.
I don't think we could even do that. So yeah, it was kind of like dreary and unmotivating and just like a weird vibe.
Yeah.
And I think also librarians are sometimes known for just being very introverted. So I would go into the office and like no one would say hi. They would not know I was there because they were just like hunkered down on their computers.
Wow.
And so it took me a while to kind of like grow into it. But then after a while, I kind of realized that all this behind the scenes work I'm doing is actually helping people. So I was basically working on the back end of like, I don't know, like a research guide or a LibGuide on like the website for the library. So if a student needed some kind of information to write their paper, it's there because of the work that I did and the work that my team did.
Were these insights or feelings that you had around serving others, was there a seed that was planted beforehand where you kept it in mind? Because I feel like definitely well before my age of wanting to serve others and knowing that serving others brings so much gratitude is an important facet, and it's one of my purposes. But it seems like you discovered that at an early age.
Yeah.
Was it something you knew even earlier, like, hey, I'm going to explore a path of where I can serve others, or did it just start to manifest itself during these years to where, like, okay, I'm feeling that, if that makes sense?
Yeah, I guess like early on when, you kind of think about like, oh, like what do you want to be like when you grow up? I didn't really have any idea of what I wanted to do other than like, I want to help people. I think that, at least in my experience, just growing up in like the DC area, it can be like super high pressure. And even
competitive high pressure?
Yes, extremely. And there's like this certain...
Is that tied into the politics?
And I think a little bit. Yeah, maybe.
Lobbyists and...
Yeah, or just people that are like after power and status and prestige. And they want that for their kids.
Yeah.
And so it's like you almost have like these prescribed ways of living your life and like what you're supposed to aspire to.
Yeah.
And that like really turned me off for whatever reason. Like, I didn't want that. I wanted to be genuine to myself and to other people.
Yeah.
But yeah, it took a while to find that over time.
Got it.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah.
What growing up, what was your favorite museum? I imagine it's the National Mall, right?
Yeah.
Like the
Yes.
Lincoln Memorial and all those.
Yeah. That's where most of the Smithsonian's museums are.
Yeah.
I really liked the American History Museum. They had like a renovation when I was very young, but before the renovation, I just thought like it was so cool. Yeah. Like everything was everywhere. I could just like run around and explore. It was almost like my house in a way, my ideal house. So I went there a lot. Cool. Yeah.
Annual pass.
Yes.
Had the membership.
Oh yeah.
And what about with you mentioned that you really love history and you first came across Native American history, which I haven't dove into it a lot, but I did have a class in college. I did have done other personal studies on it, but nothing in depth like yourself. What I totally love indigenous culture, indigenous people, the Native Americans. From your early learnings, what's your take of those cultures?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I'm still also learning about like those cultures. I think the way that this book was written, it was very like accessible to children, like it was a children's book. But I think it gave a lot of like, I don't know, like humanity and to this group of people that has gone through like a lot in America. Yeah. And I think the way that they told the story was like starting with them of like, this is just like how they're living in Roanoke. And these people from Europe have come. And I think it really humanized that interaction and didn't exactly shy away from the struggles of like what happened there. And I think it really nuanced it as well. that it wasn't all bad, but it wasn't all good either. And just kind of followed that storyline. And I think leaving a lot of room for mystery as well kind of like piqued my interest with like, we won't always know everything in history or even about a people group. But if you're like genuine and you have like integrity in trying to tell that story, especially from their perspective and honoring that, a lot of like good can come from it. And I think, yeah, as a kid, I was like, this is really interesting and relatable. Yeah.
And that's the start of your love for history.
Yeah. Yeah.
Awesome. So looking back, what have been some of the most surprising turns or adventures your career in life has taken so far?
Yeah, I think definitely like Japan and just my desire to go there. So I think it is tied to kind of that library job that I had in college. So I think like during this time, I was still trying to figure out what I wanted to do with my life. And I think like, as I said towards the end, like museums and libraries was really, it was getting more clear that this is what I really wanted to do. But also towards the end of college, I was like going to a church in Chicago at that time. And I think that they played this video about this upcoming like mission trip that they were having to Japan. And I had never been to like Japan or anywhere in Asia. It was not on my radar. And I didn't really quite understand what missions was because I was just like a recent Christian. I became Christian early on in college. But something about what they said just really spoke to my heart. And so what they said was, people think that the Japanese way of life is so great, but it's not. And I was like, like, why are these people saying that when they're from this culture, they live there? And why don't they delve more into it, into this video? Like, it was just very open-ended and kind of mysterious. And so I think I prayed about it, and I just felt like I really need to go on this trip. And yeah, I think I went to Japan for the first time, my first time in Asia. And I quickly picked up on what they were talking about. And I think just like looking back over time and following this path, I didn't know how libraries and art and storytelling, like all of this stuff was going to relate, but somehow it did. But yeah, I think that's like the most surprising thing because I'm getting ready to like move there.
Nice.
Potentially long term.
Yeah, which is really exciting. And I know a little bit further into the show we're going to cover that. So tell me more about your time in college and what led to checking out a church for the first time. And I think about my niece. She's kind of going through the same process where in college, or maybe at the end of her college, found church. And I also, just to add a recollection and to preface, our car ride is your life, and you've mentioned it a little bit, you've let it unfold naturally, and as you make decisions or take on opportunities you once perhaps weren't interested in or never thought about, you took those on, and then more opportunities came about and things start to unfold. And so as you start, you're explaining like you hadn't thought about the library and and these different paths, but I just wanted to note that because it's very fascinating to me how you allowed life to unfold without like being in DC where it was highly competitive and they were aiming for I'm going to be a doctor early on sort of thing, and you just went out to explore, take these adventures. But that being said, tell me more about the deciding to get into religion and what, or going to church and.
So I guess like my religious background, I didn't really go to like a church that like I go to now. I think that first, maybe like when I was like 5 years old to like middle school, I was going to like Unitarian Universalist church that my grandmother was connected to. And so I guess like at least this specific church, it was kind of like anything and everything kind of goes there. Like you can believe whatever you want to. And so their emphasis was really about like community. There was a lot on like social justice, which I liked. But I think that I started to get more interested in Jesus and like, who is this person? But yeah. And then I think after that, my mom, she's from Ghana. And I think that, I guess to connect more with her culture, we started to go to kind of an African, like Ghanaian Pentecostal church. This is like total opposite of like what I was going to with my grandmother. And it was just not a good experience for a lot of different reasons. So I think that kind of turned me off. But I think also with just my childhood, I think there was just like a lot of like hardships that we had faced because like my mom was like a single mom. So we just had gone through a lot together. And so we weren't very like in tune with God, or we didn't really have that personal relationship. And so I think it took a while. I think for me, there was probably a lot of barriers. But yeah, I think when I first started going to Northwestern in college, I was just kind of like in a bad spot from everything that had happened growing up. And I was just kind of like almost at like the end of my rope in the sense of like, I have no hope. Like, I don't know what to do with my life. It was just like a lot of despair. And I just felt like very lost there. And so I was just grappling with a lot of this. And I think in that darkness, I think looking back, like God provided a friend, like out of nowhere. And so one of my classes, this girl, she sat next to me and started to befriend me. I thought she was a little weird because I'm like, why all of a sudden do you want to talk to me? But like, sure. And then out of nowhere, she just asked me to go on a study abroad trip to South Africa. And I was kind of like, what? Like, why? Like, why are you asking me? What is in South Africa? And I thought about it and like, I have nothing to lose.
Good for you.
Yeah. I'm really glad that I went because it changed my life. And so we were in like a fishing village, very small fishing village near Cape Town. The program itself was kind of chaotic and messy, but the people in the community were amazing. Specifically, my homestay mom turned out to be Christian, and we just bonded instantly. And I just felt like I could tell her about all the things that I'd been through in my life. And she was very open with her own life of growing up in apartheid, and just how that had affected her. And how she had also been in a very abusive marriage and how she was able to get out of that. And I think one thing that just really stuck with me with this woman is just how she was such a pillar in her community. And despite all of her hardships, I just saw how like God was using Auntie Dina to bring light in such a dark space. Because it was also very hard living in that small fishing village. There's still just a lot of issues from apartheid that like affect people to this day. But yeah, one day she invited me to our home church, and I couldn't understand the language, but I just started like weeping like uncontrollably. And I think my heart understood that like everything that I had ever wanted in life of just direction and hope and a life purpose and love could be found in Jesus. And so that summer, I like gave my life to Christ, and I prayed for the first time, just asking for forgiveness for the ways I had acted and the struggles I had gone through, just asking for forgiveness. Just that I would forgive other people, and that the Lord would show me the way. And that's kind of the start of church and a real relationship with Jesus.
Were you baptized in South Africa?
So I was actually baptized in Lake Michigan. It took like a year. I think yeah, I was just like so new to the faith. And like when I came back, the same girl that invited me to South Africa, I started going to her church in Chicago. Yeah, and it was kind of like awkward, I guess, because I'm like, I don't know, like, what does it mean to be a Christian, or like how to act in the church, or like all the different things you're supposed to do, you know? And so it kind of took a while also to feel comfortable and to just really understand what is the gospel. But yeah, every Sunday I would just go and just be like crying, like something was like softening in my heart, in my mind. So yeah, I think like a year later, I got baptized in Lake Michigan. And yeah, I've had like a relationship with Jesus ever since. So I became Christian in 2015 and was baptized in 2016. Yeah. So it's been like over a decade, like around a decade.
Yeah.
Yeah. Of this
Awesome.
journey. Yeah.
And so the gal that had asked you to go to South Africa originally, she was on that trip, of course.
Yes.
Was she having a similar experience, or did you guys interact quite a bit while you were there? Or was your new friendship with the gal you met there the focal point of that trip?
Yeah, so I think the girl that invited me to go to South Africa, like she had come from like a Christian background, so she was already very like familiar. She already had like a walk with the Lord, and then she was also like in a different house, like on the other side of town. So I actually didn't see her as much, even though it was like so small.
Yeah.
So the focus was really on my homestay mom.
Cool.
Yeah.
Very awesome.
Yeah.
And so, part of my thought is in exploring, what's going in our world today of people having depression, anxiety, being isolated, being lonely, and talking with others, including yourself, about what's it take to build community. And what for those, I believe that church and religion is a strong way to build community, but not everybody is going. And so for those that do not participate, what other communities can we build is part of the thought process. But for you, in sharing with our listeners, it sounds like you went through difficult times in your youth and into the college years that was catching up with you. And I think so many people face this today, but don't ask for help, don't seek help, or maybe don't know which way to turn to get help. Can you share a little bit, if you want? You're open to share a bit about your story and how that led to, but you're at a loss for hope, and so this was a turning point. And so for others that may be in this situation, any wisdom that you might share?
Yeah. I guess like my entire childhood, I just felt like very isolated because my family was so broken. So we didn't really have any community. And the communities that we did try, they were also very broken, kind of like the African church that I had mentioned, and just other forms of brokenness, like at school. And I think also part of the struggles in that was just kind of growing up in that like very high pressure environment. You're supposed to be perfect. You're not supposed to share your struggles with anybody because it's like weird or it's shameful. And I think it's just like also hard because I think like people don't really talk about this, so they don't even have the vocabulary to kind of identify what it is that they're actually going through or feeling. And so when I got to Northwestern, it was almost like another version of that, but like times 1,000, where you're in a very high pressure environment. Everyone around you seems to be doing so well, but it's just very isolating.
Interesting.
Yes. Yeah. And so I feel like that is definitely like a barrier of true community or reaching out is kind of shame, or feeling like you don't have a place to be yourself or to share your brokenness.
Yeah.
And not just sharing your brokenness, but you don't have the tools or resources to start to like make a better life for yourself and to get the healing that you need. And so I think like looking back, having that person, she didn't know what I was going through. But she took the initiative to be my friend. Even though I thought it was kind of just like out of nowhere. And I think that
at the same time, but
yes.
related to this is a sign from God.
Yes. Looking back, it was like, okay, like I was in a horrible place, but God gave me the friend that I needed. And I think that's what's so awesome also about just my relationship with Jesus, or just having a relationship with Jesus. It's not just about like religion or going to church. It is a friendship with Jesus, who truly knows you because he created you, but he also understands your struggles because he has suffered and has gone through a lot on this earth.
Right.
And I think that over time, like having this friend invite me to South Africa to just even get out of that environment into a new place, I think that was key. And then meeting my homestay mom, who knew exactly what I was going through, but with her own relationship with Jesus, was just able to instill hope, and just having a different model. And so I think for both of those people, they were so intentional about inviting people into their homes, into their lives, and not worrying about like, is this going to be awkward, or is this person too broken?
Yeah. That's compassion.
Yes.
Love.
Yes. Yeah.
Leading with the heart first. That's awesome.
Yeah.
And so for those who may be struggling or not feeling like, you hit on an important topic, and I think it's being a little bit more socialized. I was sharing a book with you earlier that I started to dive in with, and it talked about, it's especially 20, 30 years ago, you couldn't talk about any problems you were going through in earlier. And I feel like with depression, because there's athletes, celebrities, there's more and more people that are out in the open talking about that they're going through this, that it's becoming more socialized. And I think that's very important. But not everybody is doing that, especially with isolation or feeling lonely, and coming out and talking about it. And kind of, as you alluded to, there's no vocabulary for it, or maybe there's no path, or maybe there is. And I think you would say church. And but it's not socialized enough for those to know to go ahead and reach out. What would you say to those who may feel isolated or lonely? What are their options?
Yeah, I think that's a really good question, and also just like a really hard question. Because I even think in my own story, like my bad experience with church turned me off from it. And so I think like there unfortunately can be churches where people don't know how to share that hospitality or have that compassion. I think that's like a really missed opportunity. But I think that people, like, we are born with this desire to have this purpose, to be connected to something bigger than yourself. And we need an outlet to explore those questions safely without having that pressure to be perfect or to act like you know everything. And I think that, it took me like 19 years to have a relationship with Jesus. And that's a long time. And I think it is only by God's grace that like I'm here and have this relationship. But I think also like it's important to not give up, because we're human, we're flawed, people are going to get things wrong. But I think there are genuine communities and people out there and churches who are reaching out to those who are hurt, who are ready to receive, to show true hospitality and to walk alongside people in their suffering. And so I think it's just a matter of like not giving up on yourself and not giving up on other people. And learning how to steward your pain. Well,
when things are very difficult and one feels like giving up, I mean, how do they persevere through it? And knowing that there is to see the light at the end of the tunnel, and knowing that even in 15 minutes or tomorrow, it could be a better day, a better moment.
Yeah.
It's hard. I mean, it takes a lot of work. I think what you had said, and for me in facing dark times and persevering, but I remember having a conversation with a gal and talking about, just what I was going through in life, and she, and about having a purpose, as you noted. And she said, I'm kind of tired of society stating that we have to have purposes. Your main purpose is to love. And we left the conversation at that, and then coming full circle, and what I see today and what I strive for is, or what I have is purpose. And so, in talking with folks, and a young gentleman who's going through it the other day, and that was it. It's like, have that purpose, right? And for you, early on, you found that purpose, and it was to serve people, to find community, build community.
Yeah, I really like what you said about like love and compassion, because I think that is like the main point of like the gospel and having a relationship with Jesus, and like he loved us so much that he would die on the cross for us. And so when we have a relationship with Jesus, how can we not then love others with the same love? And I think I'm still learning about like what that means, because it's like, yeah, I guess like that person that you had mentioned, there's so many things from society that tells you what you're supposed to do. Or even sometimes you get like so caught up in like, we have to like do community in a certain way, or we have to serve people in a certain way. Yeah. But if there's no love or compassion at the core, then what is it really for? It's not,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is there a particular experience, whether that be a project, a place, or a community, that deeply shaped the way you see your work and purpose?
Yeah, I think I had mentioned earlier, like my studies with like history and Asian American studies, and how that kind of led to like Japanese American history. So that was kind of my focus for my senior project. It was specifically about Japanese American women's experiences of being incarcerated during World War II, and how they kind of processed that, and how they fought for reparations. And so I think that project kind of started off as just something I want to try out to do as a researcher, because I didn't really have much connection to the Japanese American community at that time. But I think, yeah, it was just really eye-opening and so impactful to be able to go into their community archives and to read firsthand what that really traumatic experience was like, in their own stories of resilience, in their own stories of what does it mean to belong, and how they form and shape their identity. And yeah, I thought that was just like the end of it, but it was actually a gateway for me to start working in the Smithsonian Museum when I moved back home. So there still is a Japanese curator there who she works with Asian and Asian American material. And at that time, they had an exhibit on World War II and Japanese Americans. Yeah. And so it was like the perfect fit. And so it just really expanded my understanding of how these people like fought for justice. And I think there's one particular story that, again, is also like related to DC and the archives. So I think around when people were starting to really grapple with these histories and that experience and trying to find evidence of what like happened, there was a Japanese American woman who had gone into the archives, and she had found a piece of paper, like a document, that kind of proved that the United States government did this intentionally, and they knew it was wrong. And they still incarcerated over 120,000 Japanese Americans. And so it was from that piece of paper and that record keeping that was one of the catalysts for the Japanese American community to really rally together to fight for reparations and to win that. And so I think that was just such, just a very eye-opening story of the importance of record keeping, of caring for your culture in these stories, because you never know how the behind the scenes work is going to help someone, and how it's going to change someone's life. And I think that even like to this day, I'm still thankfully connected to the Japanese American community through like volunteering opportunities and still just like listening about their experiences. And so a few months ago, I was able to volunteer with this project that was it's basically like a moving memorial where people who have had relatives who were incarcerated, they were able to look at these records and see the relatives' names who had been incarcerated and really spend time with those names. And I think that was like the first time where I cried, seeing other people's tears. Yeah. And it was just so moving that these records were so important to people and to this community. And so I think it's really solidified for me that my work as a librarian, even if people don't understand it, even if it's so behind the scenes, it's really impacting people's lives, and it's making the world a better place. Yeah, and I think just like another thing, yeah. Probably one more thing with the Japanese American community around this time also, when I moved back from college, I was still very interested in the arts and trying to figure out how does that impact my identity. And I came across this book called Culture Care by Makoto Fujimura. I'm just a huge fan of his art and just his faith and his work and his life.
This is a famous Japanese or Japanese American artist?
Yes. So he's almost like world-renowned for not only his art, but how he influences the art scene and how people think about the arts in their lives.
Wow.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yes. And this book basically talks about how we all have a calling to care for the culture around us. And from that book, I just really felt like I am a culture care steward. And this book kind of gave me permission to be who I fully am, to use my gifts and interests to make the world a better place. And it just kind of all clicked for me when I read this book.
Yeah. It's so awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing.
Yeah.
I feel like that book needs to be in our schools.
Yes, everywhere. It's amazing.
And without getting into it, some of it makes me feel like it's relating to today's day and things going on.
Yeah.
And I had never heard about the Japanese Americans being incarcerated. And it's crazy.
Yeah.
Where have you found the most joy in your journey? Those moments when you felt, yes, this is exactly what I'm meant to be doing. I know you shared a bit, but can you elaborate on that?
Yeah, I think just coming back to that sense of joy is kind of what encourages me along this journey, because sometimes I'm like, I don't know where this is going. But I think just having those opportunities to see, like, if I'm compiling a list of resources for a friend, and it helps them complete their thesis, or it inspires them to take that study abroad trip, or to figure out what they want to do with their lives. I think just seeing, like, firsthand that I was able to play a small part in someone's life, it's just so encouraging and so cool to see how we're all connected. And even just, like, moments where I'm meeting, like you, for example, like I could have planned that, and just being able to look back and
you
see,
tried to deny that meeting, but then from the grace of God, he said, "Sorry, Karen, you're gonna have to deal with this guy. We're gonna reconnect you.
Exercise patience."
No, it was fair. I gave you the option to cancel, and you took no time thinking about it. Like, hey, I'm waiting. I've been waiting.
I was in a rush.
No, it was bad. I mean, they weren't letting anybody through, so it was
awful.
I would have done the same thing. I probably would have canceled before giving the driver time to say, I'm stuck. But it worked out.
Yes, thankfully.
It was meant to be.
Yes, it was. Yeah.
Yeah. Nice. You have a beautiful soul, and I'm sure everybody listening can gather that from your words. and
Thank
wisdom
you.
that you're sharing. And the thought I am having is like, either I'm not meeting enough people, or you truly are wise beyond your years. And I think it's the latter. Across all your adventures, what have you learned about building authentic human connections and creating true community?
Yeah, I think this kind of goes back to that aspect of intentionality and compassion. Um, because I think, like, even if you meet someone that you might have like everything in common with, or you're from the same culture or community, like you might not get along, or you might not see eye to eye. Um, and so I feel like, how much more hard is that to do with someone from a very different culture than your own, or community or background than your own? Um, and so I think it takes a lot of time and perseverance and effort to get to know someone, not just based off of stereotypes or prescribed boxes or roles or whatever, but to really get to know the person on the soul level. And I think that takes a lot of time and trust and just compassion, and just being genuine, because I think like you can't do this expecting something in return. Like it can't be transactional. But it
Yeah.
really has to be like you actually care about this person and you just want to be their friend because you like them or you have compassion for them or whatever it may be. And so, yeah, I think when I think about Japan, and moving there, or even the Japanese American community, I don't really have any connection to these people on my own. But I think over time, just that compassion has really driven me to understand their stories, to understand what they have gone through, and figuring out ways how can we come together to make their life and community just flourish. Yeah.
Yeah, and you're going to embark on that journey to help their communities.
Yes.
It's amazing. So why don't we dive into that a bit? And as you get ready to live and work in Japan, what excites you most about this next chapter, and how do you hope to grow through it?
Yeah, I think that there's just a lot of excitement and also nervousness about moving to like basically the other side of the world by myself. And thankfully, there's like a really great team there, and really great people. But this will definitely be the first time that I'm living on my own in a different country for like this long. So I am excited about just building a new life, and seeing how I can adapt and be flexible, and to really embrace Japanese culture and community. But yeah, I think, yeah, it's just going to be like a lot, and will take a lot of time and patience and perseverance in that. But yeah, I think in terms of like ways of growing, I think I really want to learn what is compassion like more, and how I can love other people more. Because I think the further along this journey that I go, I think I realize I kind of lack that in some ways. Like I think that I have compassion, or I think that I have love. But I think there's always like circumstances or like people that I meet that challenge that, that really challenge my understanding of what does it mean to be patient, or like what does it mean to be kind and loving. Because actually, when I first got to Japan, I had alluded to this, but I had just seen a lot of misery. Like I think when people go to Japan, if they're going as a tourist, a lot of the times they're like, oh my gosh, like the food is amazing, the infrastructure is like perfect, the culture is beautiful, which those things are true, but they often miss the hidden suffering of the people. Kind of like due to what we talked about of there is this strong culture of shame, and honor in appearances. But the first time that I went, the pastor that we were with, who hosted us, she took us to the places that people avoid. So we went to the prostitution areas. We went to homelessness. Yeah, just a lot of things that we were exposed to kind of showed like this is not a utopia. People are really struggling here. And so it took a long time. It was in 2018 and now it's 2025. So it's like about 7 years to continue to follow this sense of calling, because I was scared of going into those places of suffering and basically dying to myself. Because I think when you go into a culture or a community or even just getting to know another person, you have to know their brokenness and suffering, and you have to know how to hold it well. And it costs a lot. But I think if you're driven by compassion and love, it's possible. Yeah.
Nice. Share and have additional questions, but share a bit on. This is a 2-year journey. What specifically will you be doing?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I think I'm going to be sent out an initial 2 years. And it's really just to get my feet wet in the sense of really getting to understand the culture, to learn the language, to start to befriend Japanese people where they're at. The organization that I will be interning with, Christ Bible Institute, is an equipping ministry in Nagoya, Japan. And they have 4 different ways that they equip Japanese leaders to do ministry. They have a seminary, they have a counseling center, they have a church planting center, and then they do media and publishing. So as a trained librarian, I'll be helping out with the seminary library. I may be doing other things to help out as well. But yeah, it's really just to see if this will be, kind of the place where I'll be able to grow and live long term, and to see just where this calling and journey takes me.
Leaving the door open to when it maybe never ends.
Right. Stay there forever.
Yeah. I have a feeling you're going to adapt very well.
Thank you.
With all the life experiences that you've shared, the connections that you've made, and foundation for yourself and how you approach growth and living, I think you're going to do very well. I can understand, though, as you begin to work on this transition where maybe there's anxiety, but there's a little nervousness involved, and obviously that's pretty natural. And but I think you're approaching it great, and we can allude and share with it later. But you are going to be fundraising for this trip as well.
Yes.
And so we can share that information at the end, along with how people can connect with your writings, with your blog, your amazing storyteller. So we'll share that information as well. With that side note, diving into this a little bit further, and all your experience in leading with compassion and love and the desire to make connections and build community, I guess, alongside or outside of the work you'll be doing, how do you have an approach? And even if it's here, like, and maybe, I guess, as I think on the cusp of how others could do it, but what's your approach to making those connections and building community? Like, what do you hope to achieve when you're there in those regards?
Yeah. I think the first thing that came to mind as you were talking was just prayer. I think this is probably like impossible to do beyond that, and just starting with that in order to have those true, genuine connections. Because I think my hope and desire is to, just be embedded in the community, to have friends, to befriend the Japanese people, to really understand them. And I think that takes time and grace. And I think because I'm coming from such a very different background and culture, that's probably going to stick out in a lot of ways, maybe in some good ways, maybe in some like embarrassing ways.
And that's okay.
Yes. But I think that even what I've heard about Japan is that it just takes longer to do things. And I think it takes people a while to know that you're trustworthy, that you're serious about getting to know them, that you're not just making them into kind of like a missionary project, but that you actually care about their lives and you want to come alongside them and you want to support them in how they want to see their communities flourish and how they want to share the hope of Christ with others there.
Yeah.
And that takes a lot of humility and putting away pride and even your own understanding of what you think it is. And
multiple get-togethers over matcha tea.
Yes.
I love matcha
ramen.
tea.
Yes, same.
Oh, yes, and ramen.
All the food.
And so, as a researcher, do you take an approach when looking to establish community or do the outreach with the community members to better understand them? Do you ask yourself, qualifying questions or questions you want to get answered? Or is it just looking person to person to get to know people with love and compassion?
Yeah, I think it's kind of like the latter. Yeah, because I think that what like approach that you have, it kind of just unfolds over time in a sense. Like I don't know exactly what I'm going to encounter until I get there. And so I feel like I have to keep like an open mind about like how I'm going to approach something to build community. But I think that it has to be driven by like compassion and love. So even as like a librarian, I just love getting to know like other people, especially like that one-on-one interaction, and just understanding like what makes them spark and come alive and what makes them joyful. And I think from there, just being very intentional about like, oh, there's all these resources that are out there that they may not know about that could help them in their journey or what they want to do. But I think it really just starts with listening. And just a posture of humility and like servanthood in a way. Like I'm there to serve these people.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's awesome. What does stepping into another culture teach us about ourselves? And what do you hope to learn by immersing in Japanese life and community?
Yeah. Man, I think that being part of different cultures, just learning about other cultures, I think that it kind of teaches you to have an open mind, that culture can be very fluid and is always changing. And so I think back to like just history and storytelling. There's so many different ways to tell a story. And I think we're always getting new information and different angles about something.
Yeah.
And so it's so important to have like an open mind and to be able to integrate those experiences into what does it mean to be part of a culture? What does it mean to belong? Because I think it can be so like just, almost like hurtful if like you don't fit into a box that's arbitrary or the box doesn't have to be there. And if it's too like conscripted, you lose so much of like what this culture can be and what it can become. And so I think for myself, I think that'll definitely be a challenge of like, what is it going to mean for me to become part of Japan in the society, in the neighborhood that I'll be living in, and to just give myself grace in that discovery process and to give other people grace who might be confused or might be fearful or intrigued, and just to take it day by day. And so I am looking forward to seeing how I will grow through all of this and how parts of Japanese society and culture will impact me. Because I even think like, as an American, I think that the cultures can be so different, almost in such a stark way, that things really stick out, like good and bad. And I think that there are certain things about Japanese culture that it's very admirable. And maybe there are things as part of that culture that I don't value now, but I should value. And so I think it'll be interesting to see how that will influence how I interact with other people, how I see myself, how I just live day to day.
Yeah.
Just having that blend. Yeah. Yeah.
So if you were to return in, say, 5 years, you could come back a completely different woman.
Yes, I will.
I
Yes, I'll be
will.
completely different.
But the beauty in what you said and how you approach life, if more of us could realize and you're going with the flow of life. And tying back into what I said earlier is instead of forcing things to happen, I do believe that setting goals and taking action is important, but at the same time saying yes to things we may not want to do or
Yeah.
thought we would ever do, and allowing doors to open. And then, as you're saying, you're not going in there with a plan and trying to box things up. You're just allowing things to unfold one day at a time. And that is beautiful.
It's hard. Yeah.
Well, any wisdom in well, that's what I was thinking of. Like, all right, when did this develop? And, but I imagine it's based, ties into what you've shared in your journey in relation with Jesus and with the Lord.
Yeah.
Okay, wonderful. So, what practices, people, or passions help keep you grounded through all the changes and adventures you've been on in life?
Yeah. I think all of it has to do with my faith, a relationship with Jesus. I think that my life has just been marked by change, like constant change, and constantly having to adapt and to grow. I think that before knowing the Lord, I wasn't always doing that well, or it's just like going through the motions. But now I think that, especially as I learn more about my faith and what does it mean to have a relationship with Jesus and what does it mean to cultivate that, and to truly abide, I think there's a lot of specifically spiritual practices that really keep me grounded of like, why am I here and what is my purpose and how do I stay true to the calling I feel like God has given me. And so like I mentioned prayer, I think there's so many different ways that you can pray. But it's this act of like, at least for me, giving these anxieties to God and being very honest about it. Of like, I don't know what I'm doing, or this is really scary and it's going to cost a lot. And just being very honest and open that like, I don't know what the next step is. I think that has always been very hard for me. I feel like I'm kind of like a type A person. Or I just want the reassurance of what is going to happen next. And I feel like on this journey, like there's just no way to know that. And so to make it less painful or to really surrender to that and to live in the moment, and to take things as they come with grace, I think that just constant abiding in prayer, journaling. I love journaling. Going for walks, talking to God. There's just a lot of different ways that I feel like I've been able to discover how I can cultivate this faith that's truly been an anchor in my life.
Nice.
Yeah.
What challenges or obstacles have stretched you the most, and what have they taught you about resilience or faith?
Yeah. So I think, as you had mentioned, my life has been marked by just a lot of change. I think, just going a little bit deeper into like my childhood and my family. So I basically come from 3 different family systems. So my mom is from Ghana. She was informally adopted by this white American woman from the South, just a whole other culture. And,
right.
Yeah. And my dad is from France. And all 3 of these families are marked by generations of abuse, dating back at least 4 generations on each side. So that's like a lot to like grow up in. And so I think that like, my dad didn't really grow up with me. And so it was really just like me and my mom, and to an extent my grandmother. But it was just a very broken family. So that was just very hard growing up in that environment with a single mom, being an only child, not having many resources in a place like Washington, D.C., where like almost everyone has like some kind of resource.
Yeah.
That's what it feels like. And so, yeah, we've been through a lot. We've seen a lot. We have a lot of crazy stories of just like one bad circumstance after another. And I think like looking back, like even just kind of like going back to like the practices, I think that I am like currently in therapy. I feel like therapy is such an important thing for everyone to do if they have the means to do so. But just being able to unpack my story and to really understand how that has affected me and how that has made me who I am today has really helped me to see like God's hand in all of that, especially like the years where I didn't know him. I was like just out there like trying to survive. And I think that, yeah, like growing up, I, again, did not have the vocabulary for any of that. I didn't know how to process it. But I think after having that relationship with Jesus, just like that prayer and just really having like that two-way conversation of having almost like those heart deposits and mind deposits, of those realizations of like, wow, like God was with me in those really horrible circumstances, even if I couldn't see him or hear him. Like, I am here today because I could have ended like up dying or just could have had a really horrible life like outcome. Yeah, and I think that it's just awe-inspiring to me of how like God has worked in my life, has preserved my life, and has healed me, continues to heal and grow me so that I'm able to be here in front of you today, testifying to like all of these things that he's placed in my life and what he's going to do. And so I think that, yeah, I guess looking back, he placed a certain strength and resilience in me to get through that, to overcome. But I'm just still discovering of what like that means in my life. And I think it's only possible by faith to have that understanding and to not let those circumstances define me or to, just drag my life down. But it's truly only by the grace of God that this pain has been turned into purpose. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah.
That is so well said, and that I don't have any follow-up questions to that. I mean, we could unpack it if you want to.
We can.
But you kind of just gave me that, like, what? You know what I mean? That was like the shit. I don't know. I'm left. We're leaving this part in. We're not cutting this out. But it left me like, holy shit. Wow. I'm like, I wish I could answer interview questions as thoroughly as you like remember everything you guys say and all this stuff. But no, it's really amazing. Should I ask more questions to that?
You can feel free. Yeah. Whatever you want to ask.
I don't see anything in the past. I just see, as you take these lessons and how you've done the work to process the difficult times through your childhood into early adulthood, and then connecting with God to really uncover and look at from a new lens even, and look at your life and understand that it wasn't necessarily a happenstance. It was in God's doing, right? And that they were setting you up for more lessons down the road. And that's, in the college years, beginning to embark on a journey of being connected fully with God, with Jesus, and to go on a path to discover faith, and it's amazing that you're continuing to explore that and understand that there's, as you said, there's more ahead and what to learn about it. And to learn about yourself.
Yeah. And I think like one thing that did come to mind was just even the issues that I saw in Japan. I think another like deeper reason why I initially did not want to go um, was because a lot of the suffering that I saw, it reminded me too much of what I had gone through. And so I think when I saw that, I was like, God, like, why are you sending me back to a place of darkness and hopelessness? Like, I feel like my life is good. Why do I have to go back?
Right.
But yeah, I can talk a little bit about.
And maybe he's sending you because of all the experience, and now you have the tools and wisdom to help others.
Yes. I feel like the more I go along this journey, I'm more convinced that all of the stuff that I gone through in childhood is for this reason.
Yeah.
And so I think with like just Japanese society, just like even to touch on some of the issues, like there's such a high suicide rate. People really struggle with anxiety and depression. There's a form of social anxiety called like hikikomori. So people literally live in their homes for years and not go outside because they can't function because they just given up on life or something happened where they are no longer able to be a part of the community. Because I think in Japanese society and culture, so much emphasis is placed not on the individual, but the group. And so if you stick out in any way or fear of failure, there is no more hope for you in a sense. It's very hard to escape and build a new life in the way that you can do a little bit more easily in America. There's a lot of child abuse, surprisingly, which I wasn't aware of, but it's just very dark. People do not have very good relationships with even their family members. They function more as roommates. Like they don't even have like deep conversations a lot of the times. And so it gets into like almost emotional neglect in a way.
Yeah.
And even just like children and women are sexualized. And that's what they're just supposed to take it. And so everything that I had seen in Japan, I was like, wow, that's my story. And I was shocked. And so I think like, yeah, you're right. Like the Lord has spared my life and has helped me to make sense of this so that I can go to a very dark place where there is no hope, where they haven't heard of Jesus, where their only option is to commit suicide or to go life in misery. Just to be able to give them that hope and that option that there is a different way, that they can have true life in abundance. And, yeah.
And I think about, there's other people suffering, right? And you're calling out some of that, and even around the world. And so as you're on this mission to help others, to me, I'm like feeling overwhelmed of like, gosh, there's a lot of people that could use help. How do you reach everyone? And maybe it's trying to reach as many as you can, and that is it. But with so many people suffering, what's the strategy?
Oh my gosh. Man.
And just helping one person is more than enough.
Exactly.
And I'll say that one person is you, that one person's me. So helping ourselves is plenty enough. Not to make this like you got to go save the world. I am expecting that now after hearing all of this. But I mean, in seriousness, and how I imagine you want to touch as many lives as possible, and maybe it's a number, and in doing that, how do you go about it?
Yeah, I mean, I'm just thinking back to the seminary library and even just imagining what is it going to be like to talk to students, and just like the privilege and honor it is again to like know their story and to encourage them, because I'm sure there's like a lot of people that have ideas and hopes and dreams, but there's no one to encourage them. And I think even in my childhood, I had at least someone to encourage me if they didn't fully understand what was going on, to give me a chance, to give me the resources I needed to get out of that environment. And so I really hope to be that kind of encourager for Japanese people, that even if I cannot reach all the people that they are going to touch, I still touch their lives, and it will create this ripple effect. And just being intentional and genuine with that to pour into someone. Yeah.
Nice. I don't think they know it, but maybe they do. But the Japanese people are about to get blessed with an amazing human being.
My God.
Do they feel all this energy because you've been working on this, and you still have another about year and a half or so before you leave, and there's all this energy being put into it. Look out, Japan. When you think about the future in Japan and beyond, what vision or hope excites you the most? And what encouragement would you share with others on their own journey?
Yeah, I think just with my calling to be a missionary and to explore that in Japan, and just really understanding that suffering that people go through, I really hope that whether in my lifetime or in generations after me, that darkness will be driven out of Japan. That there would be, just no more misery and suffering. That people would truly know what it means to be loved by Jesus, and to know their true purpose in life, and to have that flourishing. And even beyond that, I think it would be so cool to see even just like Japan reconcile with other Asian countries. Because like on the another angle of like World War II history, Japan colonized a lot of Asian countries and caused a lot of suffering and harm to other people that has like ramifications to this day. And that's the more that I talk to people who have personal ties to that, it's still a very hot topic and still a very tender topic. And so that cannot be neglected either. So even to see a redeemed history, redeemed culture of Asia, and just to see the ripple effects of that, to see, just the love of Christ spread beyond Japan's borders, I think that is like what's truly deeply in my heart. And I hope to be a part of that in some way.
Yeah. And I know you're going to be. And I think you're going to do amazing things. And I know our friendship's newer, but from what we talked about originally, from what I've learned about you, in what you've shared today, the Japanese culture is going to be so blessed to have you in the world, and I think you're going to, and know you'll accomplish big things, and whatever you want to accomplish in your future and in your life, you're going to achieve. That's in you.
Thank you.
And with that, we're at the end of our program, and I have learned so much more today about you, Karen, and thank you for being here to share your story. And I hope that our listeners have gained more insight today. And this is an exceptional path to follow, and that is the purpose of this show, is to share other perspectives. Maybe you're not into going to church today, but hopefully Karen has inspired you to reach out and think about getting involved. There's so much sense of human connection and community that is built with church. You don't have to be depressed, have anxiety, or be isolated and alone to go. So we encourage all people to go, but if you are facing some mental health challenges, please reach out to others. Please look to console those in the church community, and see if you're called. And everybody's called, so just going with an open mind. And so we hope that you enjoyed the show, and we will share. Do you want to share where the fundraising piece?
Yeah, so I'm getting ready to start fundraising probably in a month. So I don't have an account yet. It's almost there. But I do have a website. It's called KarenSeekingKingdom.mailchimpsites.com. I think that's what it is.
We'll share
Yeah.
this with the show as we put it out there
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah.
That was a good one. And so there, she will be fundraising. We hope that if you've listened to this show, enjoyed it, and can fully support Karen in her journey and big things to come, most definitely. With that, we hope you have a great day. And until next time, take care.